Hey, welcome to Living the Next Chapter. We are continuing our series of authors, all a part of Mission Hope. New book that's come out. 18 authors got together with Shara Murphy's direction and Dominic Damaski's support, pooled their stories together in this amazing book called Mission Hope. And today, my guest, Matthew Dickson, he is part of this. He's got a pretty amazing story. This gentleman went coast to coast in Canada on a bicycle. So that's, for our American friends, that's 5,332 miles. And here in Canada and anywhere outside of the U.S., that is 8,581 kilometers. That's a lot of bicycle seat time, if you know what I mean. And I can hardly go around the block. So Matthew is on here to talk about his chapter within Mission Hope. And he's a Canadian, so yay, Canada. Excited to have him on the podcast. Just a little snippet from Matthew's section here in the podcast. Some of his thoughts around this book and what it means to him. You're on Living the Next Chapter. Here we go.
I talk about hope beyond hope. It's an older phrase. I've heard it before. I use it maybe in a little bit different way. I don't know, but it's been it's well documented now that many people, when they attempt suicide, from the survivors who make it through, many of them say they regretted it. Many instantly regret it. And to think that your brain chemistry goes from there's no hope for me, I want to die, to within an instant. People who've jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge and survived many of them say they instantly regretted it. And your brain chemistry can change like that to I want to die to I want to live. They're falling and they say, I want to live, I want to live, I want to live. And when you think there's no hope left, there is. You may not be able to feel it, but there is. You may be up against a brick wall, a massive brick wall that's unclimbable. It's impossible to get through, but it seems impossible. I felt through schizophrenia that things were seemingly impossible, but they're not. It just seems that way. You can get through it. And I know I can't help everybody on the planet. I know that. But I know I can help some people who can get through and keep going when they think they can't. Navy SEALs are taught in their training that they are capable of 20 times more than they think they are. And our brain just shuts down. When your mind is done, your body keeps going. Your heart will keep beating. Your lungs will keep breathing in and out. Blood will keep going through your body. Your body shows up when your mind doesn't. And yes, your body can fail in other diseases, but with mental illness, your body will keep going. It will keep showing up. And I want to encourage people that for going through mental illness or maybe other things, that don't give up. There's hope, and I call it hope beyond hope. When all hope is gone, there's other hope, other things that'll just keep you going.
Hey everybody, welcome to Living the Next Chapter. I have a fellow Canadian on the podcast. We get to wave the Canadian flag. This is awesome. I love having Canadian authors with me. And Matthew is with me today. Matthew is part of a huge project, multiple authors on one book, and so excited to have Matthew on to talk about his portion of this great collaboration that's happening. And Matthew, welcome to the podcast. So glad to have you on Living the Next Chapter.
Thanks for having me on. This is great. Appreciate it.
This is great. Okay, Matthew, we've already chatted a little bit, but for our listeners, they're meeting you for the first time possibly. Can you let them know where you are here in Canada?
I'm in New Brunswick on the East Coast. I'm a maritimer.
There you go. Those all the nice people are in the East. So I love it. It's great. It's good. I was out to Nova Scotia for a week when I worked for a company out there, and I had a rental car and I got to just go for a drive. And I remember sitting in the office going, I'm going to go to the ocean. And everybody's like, okay, like big deal. Right. And I'm like, I'm from Ontario. I don't get to see ocean very often. So I had a great time out there. And the nicest people in the world live in Eastern Canada. So I have to say that right up front, for sure. So, and Matthew, it's great to have you on the podcast. Yeah, so we're connecting about a book that's coming up. And I'm excited to talk about this because you were invited to contribute to this book and add your thoughts towards it. Can you tell me a little bit about how you were approached to write in this book?
Yeah, so I'm 51. I grew up, spent my whole life in Canada, New Brunswick, really. I biked across Canada when I was 20. I got schizophrenia at 22. It took almost 30 years to recover. And the last 5 years or so, I've been trying to do advocacy work for people, specifically with mental illness in developing countries. So I've been doing some writing for that the last 3, 4, or 5 years or so. Some articles, I've been sort of dabbling in it, and writing runs in my family. I haven't, other than writing emails and for the last 30 years, I haven't done much writing, but people have complimented me on my writing for years. And I mean, I haven't practiced it or honed it. I still make some grammatical mistakes. I'm not super great with punctuation, although I am asked to check other people's grammar, like at the office where I worked for years. But so I'd written an article for Silken Lauman's platform, Unsinkable, the Canadian Olympic rower, and about overcoming adversity and whatnot. And I posted it on. Oh, actually, someone had reached out to me online on LinkedIn, writing for his writing platform. So I submitted the same article, and anyway, then said it got some more publicity. Uh, Charlotte Murphy reached out to me on LinkedIn and said, "Would you like to write for my book on hope and overcoming adversity?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I would love to be in a book." So that's how that started.
Have you published anything in a book before then?
Technically, no. I did, I think it was 2015. I could get the date wrong, but I really wanted to go through the process of getting a book on Amazon, and I didn't really know what to write. You'd think I'd have tons to write about, but I was just with schizophrenia, it makes you very scared, and you're not able to do a lot of things that other people can just easily breeze off or breeze through. And I was hesitant to get online and social media for years. The only reason I actually got on all my social media is because of my website for mental health advocacy now, like 5 years ago. But I was hesitant. I wanted to break out into the online world a bit, and I thought, well, what could I put in a book? And I I ended up I just happened to write down some jokes beforehand, like a couple years beforehand. I just started writing down some jokes that popped into my head. Uh, my family groans at my jokes, but anyway, I ended up putting them in a joke book, and I put it online. It's still on Amazon. What is it? Different jokes for different folks.
I love it.
So it's it's a simple little ebook, really. You can get a paper copy, but it's that's the only official publication I have, other than some articles I've written on my journey in mental illness the last 3, 4, 5 years or so.
Well, there we go. If somebody needs some jokes to add to your dad jokes, because I know I have some killer dad jokes that just make people groan and walk away shaking their heads. So I might have to go and get a copy. This will be great. I can add it to my library. That's awesome. I love it, Matthew. Okay, so we kind of just breezed past the fact that you at 20 went from coast to coast in Canada on a bike. Like everyone just kind of does that. I can probably go around the block without, and then I'm done. Uh, Tell me a little bit more about this, Matthew. Like, where did you start? Get coast to coast. I'm assuming where you are, but how long did this take, and how far is that?
Yeah, so it we started in Vancouver and we ended in St. John's, Newfoundland. We hit all 10 provinces. We went to PEI, and it's an organized trip that what I went on. It's called Tour de Canada, and there's a website for it. They've gone through every year. I think they missed a year or two through COVID, but they're going through again this year. There's spaces available still, I see on their website for anyone listening.
Wow.
But it's my mom or my dad, I forget. My parents were always clipping me newspaper articles back when I had gone off to school and university and sending them to me. And in my second year, they sent me one about this group that bikes across Canada. And I thought, oh, that's kind of neat. So anyway, I filed it in my drawer with some other newspaper articles and never thought about it again, really. And then a year later, in my third year of university, I was just going through my drawer, found that article again and read it. And within minutes of finishing the article, I found myself phoning the phone number at the end of the article to ask for more information. And I thought, Matthew, this is not you. You don't do stuff like this. Where did this come from? And I have talked to a guy I worked with. He canoed the Mackenzie River, some big river in the Arctic. I think anyway, he said it was the same thing. It came out of nowhere. He wasn't a canoeist or athlete really. He just decided to go on this trip, and I was kind of the same way. I was in okay shape as a teen in university, but it was actually the headline of the article that really made me think about how you word things. The headline was "You Can Pedal Across Canada." And it said anyone of average physical fitness, if they do the training, just 3 months, 3 months of training, it's April, May, and June, and the trip is July and August. Anyone can do this if they do the training. I found that to be true. I didn't even finish. They recommend 2,000 kilometers. I think I did maybe 1,600 kilometers of training. And I've one of the guys on the trip, he didn't do any training, not 1 inch. He lost 30 pounds. He went down from 295 to 265 pounds. He quit smoking and got on his bike and started biking. And he biked every day. And after a month, just a month, he was flying with the rest of us. He was slow at first, but and none of us were. I mean, some of us were faster than others, but we weren't Tour de France riders. Tour de France, you have to train, I assume, for a long time to be able to do that. This is not. This is just simply being able to sit on the bike seat for long periods of time.
Yeah.
It's not speed records. It's I was doing like 20 kilometers an hour average. There's lots of people where I live here, bikers all over the world who will do like 35 kilometers an hour on average. The Tour de France winner does 40 kilometers an hour on average. So I was doing like half the speed of the Tour de France winner. It's but it's just fun. I had such a fun time doing that. It's not totally fun. You have to, setting your tent up in the rain isn't all that fun. Getting, close calls with trucks is, some might call stupid, really. But I went out there and I had fun, and I've been talking about it ever since and wanting to do the trip again ever since.
And that's a great segue. Is there something planned in the future for you, Matthew?
So it was 2016, I believe, and I signed up to do the trip again. And I put $100 deposit, something like that, down to reserve a spot. I ended up not doing the trip. And then a couple years ago, I attempted to do the trip again, and just didn't really get legs. And anyway, I'm trying again this year. I just announced this week. The date is now February 11th, and I announced that I'm going to try again. And it seems like there's more momentum behind it this time. I've reached out to some mental health organizations and some sponsors, and they're willing to talk to me further about this. And the mental health organizations say that this is stuff right in their wheelhouse. Is that the right phrase? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But they're looking to raise awareness, because here's a guy who's done the trip before, but before I was sick with schizophrenia, here he is trying it again at 51 instead of the age of 20. And people do the trip, the tour I was on. People in their 60s, 70s, even 80s do the trip.
Wow.
It's that's one thing I try to tell people is it's not as hard as you think. It's daunting to do, and I'm getting that daunting feeling again after having signed up again. But I know that once you're out there, it's just a lot of fun.
How many people were in your group on the first trip?
So 46 when I did it. The numbers are lower. Every year is different. The numbers are lower in the last so many years because of younger people just don't have enough money to do the trip. So often it's middle-aged or older people. And yeah.
A good community around this too, then? Like as far as all the riders kind of hanging out together and supporting each other?
Yeah, it's when we went with 46 people, people sort of broke off into cliques of like 2, 3, 4, 5 people who would ride most of the time together. Sometimes groups would intermingle and people would change and say, oh, I'm going to ride with this group today, or I'm going to ride with so and so. And it varied. Groups just sort of naturally, because none of us knew each other. So all of a sudden, how do you form these cliques? It just kind of happens naturally, the way people are by age and whether you're male or female. A lot of French people did the trip, so the French people tended to bike together a lot. Your speed, how fast you are together. It's yeah.
So, okay, let's go to that's amazing, by the way. I can't even imagine. And if you're listening outside of Canada and the US, and you're not sure how big Canada really is, I'm just thinking of I have listeners in England, for example, in UK. Just overlay the map of England over top of Canada, and you'll get a sense of how far this trip is. It's a big commitment to do this, and I can't. That's just amazing to hear, Matthew. Again, I'm going to be following with great interest for the next round and cheering you on as well.
7,200 kilometers.
There you go. You're a brave soul. You got me. You got me. So I have your website up as we're talking on the screen here. Can you take me through Mind Aid? Because I love the idea that you are gathering resources in one location for countries around the world and for people that you are serving by doing this. Can you kind of give me the idea of why you created mindaid.ca?
Yeah, so I don't know why, but I never purposely went looking for mental health in developing countries content online ever throughout my whole recovery of schizophrenia. I was reading books on how to get myself better, books on mental health and all sorts of things. But it was a TED talk by Vikram Patel. And in 2017 or so, it burbled up into my Google feed. And I watched it and I'm like, oh my gosh, here's some content on this. So I went looking for more content. And what I found was that there are groups helping the cause. It is vastly under resourced. Some countries only have one psychiatrist per million people. Over 270 million people in developing countries have no mental health care. And the experts say that number is probably lower than it really is. And some people are actually kept in chains with mental illness, untreated mental illness at that, tied to a tree, tied to a bed, with their foot through a log, tied up in a shed. And Robin Williams' son, Zach Williams, is helping promote this, as is they're helping to promote unchaining people at hashtag Break the Chains. Allison Janney, the Hollywood actress, and Tim Shriver, founder of the Special Olympics. They're helping. There's a pledge there for people to sign. They're looking for 20,000 signatures to help unchain people. So my website is, I keep finding more groups as time goes on, but basically it's a simple curation site. I don't go into great depth in any one sort of area. I've tried to get all the main areas of the cause on one site as sort of a hub for the cause. And I'd like to see it get more traction as time goes on. And I hope it's starting to raise some eyebrows with people of some influence. So it's there are groups helping. They use models of basic mental health care. That's what Vikram Patel designed back in the 90s. That's what he talks about in his TED talk. They were modeled after basic physical healthcare models that had been around for decades. How do you treat a broken leg or treat pneumonia where there's no hospital around for hundreds of miles? He said, why don't you do the same thing for mental health? So they've got these models and there's variations of them, but what you do is what they do is they go into a community, they handpick some people in the community who have some basic skills, leadership skills or maternal health skills, things like that. And they teach them how to deliver basic mental health care to their own community members. These models are low cost, proven effective, and scalable, and the World Health Organization is trying to figure out the best way to roll them out to the masses. In the meantime, these groups that I found have been doing this work, helping thousands of people get their mental health back for years now. The last 10, 20 years or so, that's when they've been using these models. And I'm trying to promote them. I'm not on the ground myself. Basically, it's just me and a website and social media right now. Maybe someday I'll have a nonprofit and I'll be for a social business and I'll have a team of people helping deliver basic mental health care on the ground. Right now, I'm helping I want to build these nonprofits that exist already and build their capacity, promote them. Like Strong Minds, they help women with depression in Africa. Fine Mind, they're helping people in Uganda. Forrest Whitaker's foundation, the Hollywood actor, is working with Fine Mind. Ashley Judd, she narrates a promo video for Strong Minds. Try Global. They're using trauma recovery in Iraq, and they plan to work in Ukraine uh, with some extra funding. So and there's other groups. I've got 10 that you can donate to in the donate section of my website. And in the resources section, there are even more that I found. And I keep finding more as time goes on. And the ones in the resource section, you can't necessarily donate to all of them, but they are doing work in different ways, like policy work or other things too. So yeah.
So I'm just scanning through, like as you're talking, there's India, South Africa, Sierra Leone, Kenya, Zambia, Uganda. I have listeners in all of these places around the world, Vietnam, Nairobi. So this is like a one-stop place to go to get great resources and find help and offer help to people who need it. This would be, Matthew, I'm going to set you up here. You'd be an amazing speaker, Matthew, to have come, whether probably it's easier to do this online as a guest speaker, but to come in and speak to groups of people about mental health, because you could travel the entire world through a video camera and a microphone and share your message and help people and direct people back to the site. So I know you're looking to expand and do more speaking. Why do you think it's important, Matthew, to get this message out to the world and present this in a global setting?
A lady saw me at my worst in 1994, walking down the street with schizophrenia. I was in and out of the psych ward that year. And she said I looked like I was walking through a world of flying glass. And I was like, yeah, thanks. That's exactly how it feels. Thank you for recognizing that. I was never classified as paranoid. That's paranoid schizophrenia is a thing. I knew I was just walking down the street on a nice sunshiny day, nothing to be worried about. But I was terrified and in so much pain, thinking that just always feeling like I was going to die. It was terrifying. I experienced literal terror. I experienced torture. This is stuff that makes people take their lives. And and I was doing that with treated mental illness in one of the better mental health care systems in the world, even though ours needs work. And my heart went out to people in war-torn countries, in extreme poverty, with mental illness to go through as well. I'm like, how do you do that? And now that we're talking about mental health so much more now, especially with COVID, it's I think if there is ever a time that mental health in developing countries could go viral, mainstream, whatever, this is the beginning of it. If it doesn't do it in now or next year or next year, I mean, we've been buying goats, drilling wells, building schools for people in developing countries for decades, sponsoring children. We get that. We get that. Just throw in one more thing. If you start a conversation with somebody and say, okay, well, what about mental health? Oh, okay, never thought about that. I mean, some people have, but some people don't. They don't know where to go. And if they do think about it, where do you go to help? What groups are helping? They're not mainstream. The groups on my website are not mainstream. You probably have not heard of them. There's a lot of content online about it. You have to go looking for it. And I just think that it's and there's these models. They're low cost, and it's not like we're sitting in a lab or a research facility trying to figure out ways to help. We've done it already. We've got the solutions. It's not perfect. These models of basic mental health care aren't perfect, but they work for a lot of people, and they're low cost and they're scalable. And I just don't want to see people suffering like I did when there's ways to help for not much money. Just dole it out. There you go. Here, we'll make you feel better. I was desperate. I was desperate for help. Please, somebody help me. I felt like I was swimming in the ocean being circled by sharks. And somebody comes up in a lifeboat and says, "Hi, Matthew, how are you? Nice day today. Did you see that movie last night?" And I'm like, I can't, get me out of here. Get me out of here. I can't talk about all this mundane stuff. I would like to, but I've got things that are more important. I've got to save my life. So I could easily just sit here. I'm enjoying my life now. I'm healthy. I could easily sit here and play golf and watch Netflix. And I like playing golf. I like watching Netflix. And I will keep doing that. But I want to spend more of my time advocating, trying to help other people. I can't sit here and not help when I've got clues, I've got tips, I've got ideas, I've got ways to help. I've got it's like the Minotaur, the Greek, I think it's a Greek mythology, the Minotaur in the labyrinth.
Mm.
It's like someone's being chased in the labyrinth by a Minotaur, and you're seeking a way out. Like, get me out of here! And I come along, and other people helping this cause, or for people going through schizophrenia, I'm an advocate for that too, and say, look, I've got a way out. Here's a map. Here's the way out. Go, 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 go. I can get people out of that terror, that torture. I can't sit here and not do that.
Yeah.
I would love if everybody was happy in the world, but so many people are struggling in so many ways. So that's one thing I try to do is encourage people to, enjoy your life. You got to enjoy your life, enjoy the sunshine, have a game of golf, watch Netflix, spend some of your time helping other people in whatever ways you can. There's a TED talk by Martin Seligman, and he says it's called The New Era of Positive Psychology. It's on my website. And he says it's been proven that the best way to get long-term life satisfaction is helping other people, philanthropy, or animals, the environment, whatever, being of service to something larger than yourself.
It's amazing. Okay, so Matthew, before we go, I want you to kind of talk a little bit about your chapter in this book as well. Let's promote this for Shar and all the other authors that are collaborating together. What are people going to get when they come to your chapter? What are you hoping they're going to walk away with as they read your words?
I talk about hope beyond hope. It's an older phrase. I've heard it before. I use it maybe in a little bit different way. I don't know, but it's well documented now that many people, when they attempt suicide, from the survivors who make it through, many of them say they regretted it. Many instantly regret it. And to think that your brain chemistry goes from there's no hope for me, I want to die, to within an instant. People who've jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge and survived many of them say they instantly regretted it. And your brain chemistry can change like that to I want to die to I want to live. They're falling and they say, I want to live, I want to live, I want to live. And when you think there's no hope left, there is. You may not be able to feel it, but there is. You may be up against a brick wall, a massive brick wall that's unclimbable. It's impossible to get through, but it seems impossible. I felt through schizophrenia that things were seemingly impossible, but they're not. It just seems that way. You can get through it. And I know I can't help everybody on the planet. I know that, but I know I can help some people who can get through and keep going when they think they can't. Navy SEALs are taught in their training that they are capable of 20 times more than they think they are. And our brain just shuts down. When your mind is done, your body keeps going. Your heart will keep beating. Your lungs will keep breathing in and out. Blood will keep going through your body. Your body shows up when your mind doesn't. And yes, your body can fail in other diseases, but with mental illness, your body will keep going. It will keep showing up. And I want to encourage people that for going through mental illness or maybe other things, that don't give up. There's hope, and I call it hope beyond hope. When all hope is gone, there's other hope, other things that'll just keep you going.
It's amazing, Matthew. This is great, and thank you for creating Mind Aid. Thank you for your heart to take something that you've lived through, you understand in a different way than anyone can learn about in a textbook. You have a different approach to this, and you've created a resource for people. And I love that you have a donate button on there. And I'm encouraging people, because you can donate from around the world to this and be a part of the solution here by practically donating and helping. That is amazing. And to compile all these great resources into one location at mindaid.ca. It's needed, Matthew. And I'm hoping that our conversation today helps inspire somebody to reach out to you and connect with you, to go to the site and to find the resources they need. Matthew, thank you for sharing your story with me today. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me on. Can I mention one last thing?
Oh, please. Yes.
So also on my website for people, if you're struggling with your own mental health, I've got a list of my best mental health tips on the site, and it goes to a number of books that I found that have helped me so much. Some articles. There's a brain health music program CD, or it's on iTunes, I think. And I really steer people towards that because there's resources for people with schizophrenia that some people might not have heard of, and yeah.
It's amazing. Matthew, thank you so much for making this. Again, I'll be waiting to hear updates from you from the road on your bicycle as you travel again. You have my complete admiration. And my wife is probably going to hear this and go, you should probably do that. And I'm like, oh gosh, thanks, Matthew. Thanks for that. But yeah, I'm so excited for you. I wish you safety as you travel. And the chance to connect with people and share your message along the way. I hope you have many opportunities to do that on the way.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to putting on events along the way. I've been chomping the bit to do this trip for so long, and it could just be me on a bike, but I'd love to have a support vehicle and a driver, so that would make it easier to put on events along the way. And that's what I would really like to do, is meet people along the way, people with schizophrenia, plus raise awareness about Mind Aid and how people can help. And that's the biggest ask, though, for anybody, even beyond sponsorship. I think the actual is finding a driver for a vehicle, or a number of drivers to do different sections of the trip. It's that could be the biggest stumbling block for me, and I'm praying someone will step up to do that. Otherwise, it just might be me on my bike and my laptop and heading out in a tent. I don't know. And I want to do this again. I would love to do this, make it like an annual thing if possible. Every summer, I just chomp at the bit to get out into the world. So,
for all of our Canadian listeners, hey, here's your chance to step up and help. Reach out to Matthew. Go through the website mindaid.ca. You can always get him, contact him there, and volunteer. And that would be amazing. So we have time for everybody to kind of pool your resources and help Matthew out. So reach out. Mindaid.ca is the website. Matthew, thank you so much for being part of the podcast.
Really appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome. Hey, thanks for being here for the podcast Mission Hope, Thriving Through Seasons of the Soul. Came out March 24th, 2023. 18 amazing authors, all corralled by the amazing Shar Murphy. If you need some inspiration in your life, please go to the show notes, follow the links, go purchase the book, gift it to someone, buy copies and leave it in your waiting rooms of businesses or a dentist office. Just go out and buy the book and support these great authors, many first-time authors, first-time podcast guests. A lot of firsts happening here. Shar Murphy, thank you. Dominic Damaski, publisher as well from Motivation Champs. Thank you so much for bringing together these amazing people, and to have these authors on a podcast here to talk about their chapters is so great. So encouraging you, go out, check out Mission Hope, Thriving Through Seasons of the Soul. Get your copy today. Thanks for being part of the podcast. Catch you on the next one.